Bruno, you want to unmute yourself? Unmute yourself, Bruno, from... Give me a sec.
Oh, okay. I can still hear your music playing in the background.
I got you, man. Let me turn all that off for you guys.
Oh man, this thing is blurry.
All right. You are ready, Bruno. You're live. You want to hop on?
All right. Okay, so let me do this. Let me try to hop on to. Are we up in the clubhouse room?
Oh, yeah, you're up.
Let me see. One in real estate. Uh,
You need to
is there
turn yours
feedback?
completely off. You need to turn your audio completely off. On your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but just don't play it on your phone. That's what's making the feedback.
Oh, okay. I got it. So, okay, I see. Let me see.
What up, Ian? You're live right now. You got your audio on, so you guys are good to go.
What's up, Ian?
Hey, brother, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. Are you able to? You're not tapped onto to Clubhouse, are you?
Hold on.
Hey, Ian, don't play the Clubhouse audio. Just look at the chat. That's pretty much it. You're going to get a lot of feedback if you're going to play it.
All right. So don't talk through the profile I'm in right now.
Don't talk through the
Okay,
profile I'm in right now.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah, don't talk
But
or don't
are you
even
getting
listen
me?
to it.
Do I need to be logged into it though?
Like
For the
major
chat.
feedback.
This is
Yeah, I
so
got it. No, I
technical
got
for
you
you
now.
guys. All right, you guys are good on the live right now. You guys are ready to go. You guys can talk through this platform. When you guys are on your phone, just look at it, just to look at the feed, look at the chat, look how everyone's, look what everyone's commenting and stuff like that. But when it comes down to hearing stuff on your phone, don't even hear it because I'm gonna get feedback through the live stream. But you guys are good to go. You guys can start the show. You guys are live right now, so I see you guys left and right. So you guys are good.
Bruno, I like your office better. You got your name in the background. It's good marketing.
Eventually, I'm gonna get this stuff together, man, and I'm gonna get this garage thing unraveled, and it won't look so crazy. Um, but in the interim, hey, we're gonna make it do what it do, man.
Absolutely. Is Tony coming on? Let's ping him in there because he wanted to
Probably
sit
not.
here and hang out and lurk in the background because Tony's in a meeting today. Bruno and I are going to be running the show. Let me get Tony in here because I know he wants to be. He's going to be listening, and I know he wants to chime in here and there. All right, just sent him an invite.
What's up, Jacob? How you doing, brother?
Hey guys. Good morning to you. Happy to be here.
Oh yeah, man. We
Yeah,
appreciate you tapping in, man, and we're pretty excited to talk about some stuff today, right? So the big thing is this, guys: the doom
yeah,
and
Bruno.
gloom.
So tell us, well, what are you working on?
What's that?
Oh, okay. So I'm still trying to get my my space in the feedback loop here. But Bruno, let's talk about your real estate week. What are you working on there now? What hurdles are you going through that are kind of making you figure out new solutions?
Um, so I mean, this week, man, I just took some listing photos yesterday for property that we got going live day after tomorrow here in Marietta. It's a 4 bedroom, so we got that. We closed 2 escrows last week. Um, got some other ones that are moving along. What else? Man, it's the week of calls, right? I'm really doubling down on reaching to my sphere, right? Like all the people that I've worked with, I'm really shifting focus this week on that. So the task today is refining that list that I have of everyone that I've worked with in the past, and reaching out to people, touching base with them, and continue to maintain contact to see how it is that I can assist them and help them with
Hmm.
all their real estate needs that they have and the journey that they're going through, to get them to really realize, right, especially with everything that we're going to talk about now and everything that's been coming up and everything else, is where my bet's going to be on the people that I've worked with, right? Like that is it's my bread and butter, because those are the people that I don't have to try to sell myself to, because they understand and they realize all the value that I already provide, right? Because of that value that I've provided to them in the past. So that's where my focus is going to be shifting to, man. I think everyone is so worried about all the news headlines, that people are more worried about what's being said in the media than they are about their actual business, right? And uh, trying to react and respond instead of just, man, do what you do, right? Double down on what it is that works for you, right? And then find out how are you going to be able to convey to people the value that you have to add, right, to them. And I think that by doing that, everything will be water under the bridge, man. Like we don't have to worry about the changes, this, that, and the third. A lot of the things that everyone's talking about has been done for years already, at least here in California, anyways. So it's just adjusting the paperwork to it. But that's my week, man. You know what I mean? Like that's my week so far. That's my focus, right? Is cleaning up my list to make sure that I have all the data and information correctly, and that I actually touch base with people, right, and reach out to them and find out like how can I better service the people that I have in my network and my sphere. You know, what's your week looking like, Ian?
I got a couple problem files that have just been kind of nagging. So those, those situations where you just kind of can't really find a really good hard solution to. So, and they're all about solar recently. Like one of these problems with the solar, accessing documents, getting it the power company, getting into those, like getting in contact with those really big organized bodies are really difficult. So to get like the documents we need, we're flipping over ourselves. Just a lot of like small little details that ended up being really sticky. And then in the same time frame too, I also got a really big project going on. I'm finally getting this big concrete pour done at my investment property, which sounds like small potatoes to some people, but this thing was a really big deal for me. I've been dealing with it for a while. It was a big problem that we ran into, so that's getting fixed. So that's pretty much what's been my last couple weeks. And also too, which will relay into what we're talking about, is I'm having trouble with a couple clients getting them in escrow trouble because of their ability to purchase. And that's kind of what we were going to be talking about today, how the people who are on the fringe of being able to purchase are the ones who are going to be the most affected by this greatest change, if not at least in the short term, while the new situation's figured out. A new normal is just like COVID, right? It took a while for the new kind of normal to stabilize. So what we're going to be talking about today, one of the things we're going to be talking about today is kind of the effect that the first time home fringe for those
Man, you're freezing
is just
up pretty bad.
it's just, it's just going to come out of a different line item. So we're going to talk about how that's going to affect the marketplace.
So the last part, man, kind of cut out. We didn't catch that the last that you mentioned.
Okay, so one of the things we're going to be talking about today is how. Oh, so on here, I just got pinged. My internet sucks. Here, let me see if I can get to a closer one. That are on the fringe of being able to afford purchasing real estate are the ones who'll be greatest affected by this. The ultra luxury and the people that can't afford it, they are out of the game. Or they're not going to be affected by this. It's the people that can't afford real estate in that are on the fringe, right? And that they'll be affected by this extra fee that has to come out somewhere in the deal. So that'll be interesting to talk about. Bruno, what are you dealing with as far as getting some of the fees covered by your clients right now? Because I was going to do this as like a comment to discuss, but what I was saying is like, what are the fees involved? Let's talk about the fees involved with purchasing and selling real estate before we even talk about commissions.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I think we can jump straight into talking about the things that people can expect, right? So whether it's purchasing or buying, you're always going to have expenses and fees that each party is going to be individually responsible for. And the parties that I'm talking about, right, are it's the two principals, the seller and the buyer. So each of these parties are going to have their own respective closing costs that are associated with that transaction. So these are the actual transaction fees. Okay, the buyer's bulk of their costs, right, from their closing costs, is really going to boil down to taxes, prepaid taxes, impound accounts, right? So it's the taxes, the homeowner's insurance that gets collected up front, which are essentially the things that are going to be protecting that collateral. So protecting the property, because you figure the lender is going to be giving you money, right? But in return, the home serves as the collateral, right? So they want to make sure that that asset is protected. So how can they protect it, right? The primary things is making sure that Uncle Sam isn't going to roll through and take the property back, right? Because Absolutely, positively, nobody's safe from that. Not even the mafia, right? There's nobody, there is no mob out there, right, that is stronger or more powerful than the IRS themselves. Okay, so they need protection from the IRS, so they have to ensure that the money is collected up front, and the homeowners insurance, right, so that if something, you know what I mean, any sort of
Covers the
call of
bank.
nature or anything else, that takes place, can potentially wipe out the asset, right? Fires, hurricanes, earthquakes, et cetera, right? So that's the buyer's side, right? And then along with the escrow fees, the title fees, you know, um, title insurance, all those other minor things that will essentially add up. So the fees that you can expect traditionally right now, as it stands today, okay, for buyer's closing costs, you're looking at roughly anywhere between 2.2 to 3%, and it can range, right? Uh, Depending when you close on that property, the time of the month will have some impacts because it'll dictate how many months of taxes are going to be collected, right? So a few variable factors there, right? But essentially, we have the closing costs anywhere from 2 to 3%, and then likewise for the seller, right? So you have a significant amount of fees that the seller pays. Now, this is where things are going to start to get tricky, right? So
Yeah.
right now, okay, the sellers are the ones that, generally speaking, take on the commissions that are paid, right? So and that can range, right? So here's the thing that has always been negotiable. So this I think for me, man, I'm confused sometimes on some of the claims and some of the stuff that kind of goes down because this has always been a negotiable item, right? It's not a fixed fee. It's not something that, you know what I mean, like it's a specific amount that people have to pay. It's negotiable, right? Man, I have sold properties for the 6%, right? And then I've also sold properties for one, right? I was looking at the situation of the seller and kind of, factoring in the expenses that they had, how much equity they had or lack thereof, right? The needs that they had to get rid of the property to sell and stuff like that. And then, so the fees have always been negotiable, but essentially, so right now, so what people typically see is the seller taking on a specific amount for commission, right? And then me as the listing agent, I take the property, I put it on the market, and then you, Ian, once you bring me the buyer, right? The seller, the guy who's paying my commission, that had paid the full 5% or 6% or however much percent, he or she and I have come to agreement with, then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to get that, and I'm going to then pay you, right, a cooperating broker, for your for your compensation for you bringing me the client. So those are some things that we are on the verge of seeing some changes, right? So right now it's, you got a lot of different states that are still adjusting. You have some states that have been doing this for a while. I mean, I think there's one statement that, like, the broker co-op hasn't been a thing for the past 8 years, right? I forgot what state that is, but so a lot of the things that are changing, right? They have been already kind of been in place for some time, but nationally across the board, come July timeframe, we're going to start seeing some more implementations across all the different MLSs.
So this is something I've been trying to figure out too along the way, is how the negotiation is going to go down, because how do you have some sort of give and take where it's like, here, I have a qualified buyer, but I'm only going to show them to you if you pay me enough. How are they going to find that middle ground?
Well, I mean, so this is where, you know what I mean? I think that as
Or
we
you
kind
think
of
it's, sorry, go
adjust
ahead.
to how things are going to be, that's going to be something that I think for the real estate professionals, we're just going to have to try to kind of, iron out the kinks with it to really just get us comfortable with being able to have those conversations and ask those questions directly, right? So I think that what's going to happen is a lot of the lazier real estate professional, a lot of the folks that aren't used to picking up the phone and trying to have engagement and conversations with folks are going to be at a huge disadvantage, because now, right, you can't just rely on a one-stop shop. I go onto a website, it tells me exactly how much it is I'm going to get paid, right, and then it's a done deal. Now, if you want to get paid, then it's going to require for you to communicate with me, the listing agent, which, by the way, you shouldn't be doing anyways, right? Now, maybe our conversation wasn't specifically about compensation, right? But we should have been having a dialogue anyways, because if I'm selling a property, right, and you have clients that you're representing, again, right, that's like the key word. You are representing your client, meaning that your client's um, best interest is supposed to be leading the way. How can you potentially be on the lookout for your client's best interest if you don't even know how it is that you're going to be structuring or putting together an offer to send my way so that so that my seller can accept it? Like, how do you even know that that's going to be something that's going to be successful in getting that across without the communication?
So, but okay? So, if we take this to the ultimate scenario, okay. So, I'm listing a property. You bring me a buyer. Hey, here's my buyer, John Smith. They're pre-approved. Here's a contract to buy the house. My next conversation with you is, I'm sorry, we're not offering a buyer's agent commission. What do you do at that point?
So that's the thing, right? So it's if I am waiting for that conversation for me to figure out the things about the compensation, that I'm already behind the power curve right there. That is the problem. If anybody is relying on that conversation to be, what ultimately like sets the pace, right, for how the transaction is going to be handled, that creates the problem, right? So now I think what's going to happen is, right, for the people that are going to be moving forward, is understanding, right, that like I need to be having the conversation with my buyer so that they understand, where I say, hey, look, man, right, like I would like to represent you, right? This is everything that I have to offer you, right? And then I wrap it up by saying, this is how much I charge for me to represent you, right? This is how much my services cost.
Is this with
Okay.
your buyer? Is this the
Now,
discussion with your buyer?
yes, absolutely. So this is the conversation that I'm going to be having with my buyers up front from the beginning, right? Is me laying out my list of services, right? Everything that I have to offer. I'm going to let them know why it'll benefit them to hire me as the person that is representing them, right? And then I'm going to let them know up front how much I charge for my services, right? And I will let them know, because essentially it's me letting people know what my worth is, right? um, and being clear and concise about what it is that they can expect uh, for my services, right, and what that's going to look like. Okay, and then I'm going to let them know what the fee is.
And then you can
So,
try and negotiate it out in credits.
right, and then I'm also going to let them know, right, that like with everything, man, right, with exactly the way that I run things now, exactly the way that I represent my buyers and everybody else, right, it's getting people to understand, to say, okay, hey, look, man, like my goal, right, which this is my goal right now, is I try and I want to lessen the out-of-pocket expenses for all of my sellers, or I'm sorry, for all of my buyers up front, right? Like that is my goal. They know that that's my goal, right? They like it because it benefits them, right? But my goal is to lessen the out-of-pocket expenses. Now, going into this, they already know, right? Because I make it clear up front that they should be expecting to pay for closing costs, because those are fees and costs that the principals take on in dealing with a real estate transaction. No if, ands, or buts. That is what that is what they should be expecting, right? So sometimes, I have clients that don't have the cash to be able to pay for those fees, right? And then in those cases, I need to prepare them and get them to understand that not every property will align with their situation. Meaning what? If I'm not able to get seller concessions to cover what they owe, then it's just not going to be the right property, right? And this is as it stands today, right now, right? So I don't think that's going to be, or at least for me, man, I can tell you that it's not going to be any different kind of moving forward, right? Where I go, I let them know up front, the services that I'm going to be rendering, how it benefits them, why it's in their best interest to go with me and let me represent them. And then I'm also going to let them know what I charge. And then on top of that, the caveat is going to be me letting them know, hey, look, man, I'm going to do everything in my power to be able to get those fees covered, right? Because again, my goal remains the same, right? Is how can I get you to a home? How can I make you a homeowner with the least amount of out-of-pocket expenses as possible? So how can I lower your barrier of entry for you to own a home, right? The best way possible. And ideally, I come across a seller who is willing, right, to give the concessions to pay for the buyer's fees. Now, the fees include the real estate commission fees, the closing cost fees, and everything else that is comprised of that, right? So if we go and we have the conversation and then I reach out to you and say, hey, look, we're not offering any sort of compensation. And I say, okay. You know what I mean? Then I go back to my client and I say, look, remember, look, I told you about all the services, right? We have this buyer agency agreement that you signed, right? I told you what the fee was, and I reach out to this property. My goal is to try to get the concessions to pay for those fees that you owe. Um, I was either able to do it or I wasn't, right? Maybe the seller, you know, it agrees to it, or maybe the sellers don't. But at the end of the day, it's a fee that they are incurring, right? So, what I can do is I can offer creative ways for us to be able to overcome that, right? So examples of that would be, hey, 600,000, you you know, and I would say, hey, Mr. Buyer, this is something that I would, offer that we can try, right? We submitted an offer at 600,000, right? Ian, the listing agent, told me that his client isn't paying for any sort of compensation or anything else, right? But essentially, we need some sort of concessions to help out. Hey, so something that we might be able to do is, let's see if we offer them 610,000 and then we ask for 10,000 back. At the end of the day, the sellers are going to be netting what they're after, which is the 600, right? Now it's a way that we can potentially roll that fee into your financing, right? Now, there are some intricacies and some things you're going to have to take into consideration, like is the property going to appraise? If it doesn't, what's going to happen, right? But essentially, is looking for solutions. We know the problems are there, but now how do we find the solutions for them? But at the end of the day, I think if the expectations are set up front, right from the beginning, right, then we're never, at that point where we reach this uncomfortable crossroad of like, ooh, so they're not going to pay. So what do we do now? You know what I mean? Like we addressed that even before, because if we
Yeah.
talk about it
So
before it
check this
becomes a
out. I
problem,
actually
then
have
the
a
problem
question
now
for
is
you.
like,
What do you think? Do you think commission is a fair bargaining item for the advertising of a sale of a property? Do you think that's a fair like way of if there's a bigger pay? Do you think there's something wrong with that by offering a bigger commission for the sale of a property
um,
as a sales tactic?
I
Because
don't.
I've seen it being successful before. If somebody if like word gets out that there's a valuable transaction for the agent, is that something that's wrong, or is that something that's like part of the sales process? What does the chat think? Everyone put it down there. Do you think offering a higher sales commission is like a good way of selling something faster, or do you think it's shady?
Man, I'll tell you, man. I feel like it's just a part of the transaction. It's a part of sales, right?
Yeah,
So
it's marketing
you
almost.
have, huh?
It's almost marketing in a way. Like the word gets out that
It's
there's
exactly what it is.
Yeah, that's what I think. So, yeah, let's talk about that for a minute here because I mean, I think in the ultra competitive markets, say there's a house with like 20 offers on it. There's obviously less margin there and much less bargaining power regardless of the situation, right? And then when there's a situation where you have a distressed seller, there's way more leverage that you can extract out of the situation too, because the person is in need of the conversion, right? They need to convert their real estate into cash. And that's always something that's the balancing act. Like, how desperate are they? And desperate's a wrong word. I don't want to use desperate. How motivated are they to convert this piece of real estate into a more liquid asset like cash? So, and that all becomes part of the balancing act when you throw time in there also. Wouldn't you agree? You think like
Absolutely,
how
man.
much they need to sell and how fast they need to sell it, and that all kind of weighs into the final price that they ultimately assume as being a decent offer, right? An offer they accept. So, yeah, how do we want to talk about this? How do you think it's really going to work out? Because I'm interested in it. Because do you think that you're going to have to work for less, or do you think that you'll still be able to? Because I don't know. It's like a plumber's got to get paid to install the pipes. How do you still get paid
Mm-hmm.
for work at the same time, not just get the runaround? I mean, like, hey, I bring this buyer to you, or I bring this listing to you. Say you're my buyer, Bruno. I bring you this listing and be like, hey, check it out. 123 Elm Street. It's exactly what you want. Tons of equity in it. Nobody knows about it yet. Do you want to buy it? Yeah, sure. Okay, you can't figure out the seller says you're not answering your commission. What's to stop them from just going around and talking to the seller? And then you're out of the deal when you were the procuring cause. How do you still do you think it's all just going to come down to that agency agreement?
Yes, absolutely. And I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah, I think
that's going to be the important between
yeah,
getting
you're right.
that document signed up front, right? So that's going to be the thing that locks you in, right? Legally and contractually, right? To where you render a service and you get paid for the service, right? So the person that is taking it on, right? I mean, like right now, man, if I were to take my BMW to the dealership, right? Like before they take my car, right? When I drop it off, they have me sign something, right? I go and I sign, and then they tell me what it is that they're going to be doing. And sometimes, like, they're not even sure exactly what it is. Like, sometimes it'll just boil down to them saying, like, hey, look, you know what? Like, we charge this much, but what we're going to do is we are going to then do a diagnosis, you know what I mean? Like, and we're going to see what it is that's wrong with it. But for us to check your car, it's going to be X amount, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that is laid out so people already know, right? It's a thing, man. We're like, this has been done for so long for practically almost everything else, right? So this isn't anything new, right? This isn't anything different, right? Whether or not buyers are now going to go straight to sellers or not, right? Brother, that's something that a lot of people do right now, right? Like, you have a lot of different uh folks that are purchasing real estate that they feel and they think that as if they go, straight to an agent without having an agent and letting that agent represent both buyer and seller, that they are getting the most amazing deal ever. Like, it's just a way that we have, some people have learned and kind of shaped their way of thinking that bargaining is going to be what ultimately gets the best deal, right? And I can tell you from personal experience that is absolutely definitely not the case, right? um if my fee is 2 or 2.5%, right, a lot of times I can get a deal, right, and save the client significantly more than whatever it is that they would be paying, right, for the services of having somebody there. But at the end of the day, man, it goes back to the marketing, right? It goes back to what you said earlier about the fact of so for those of you that are tapping in, and I see we got 24 folks in here, we got some more folks over here in the clubhouse room, right? It's just understanding some terminology, and I think this right here, if we all understood the terminology, it would make this significantly easier for us to explain and for people to conceptualize it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the roles and responsibilities, right? So the role of the person that is selling your property, right? Meaning that if Ian is the guy that you hire to sell your property, Ian's title, okay, legally, okay, per the contract, he is the listing agent. He is the one that is going to list your property on the MLS, right? He is the one that is going to be listing the property for sale on all the different platforms, on all the different, corners and turns to let people know that your property is for sale. He is listing that out there. Bruno, the guy that has the buyer, I'm actually the one that is going to be selling your property. So I am known, even though, a lot like the unofficial term that, or the most familiar term that we have is people say, I'm the buyer's agent. That's not the actual role, right? Per the contractual legal terms, I am the selling agent. Ian is the listing agent. Bruno is the selling agent because what I'm doing is I'm the one that is taking my clients around to all the different properties, and then all the good features and everything else about your property and the reason on why my clients should buy your property, all that information is going to come from me. I'm going to let my client know why, or I'm going to, inform them and educate them on why it's beneficial for them to get your property over the next property. And maybe your property isn't the right one, right? And all I can do is I provide all the information, right? So that my client can make an educated decision based off of the facts that I provide, right? What are the facts that I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about the school district, right? I'm the one that's letting them know about, what is the grading of the school that falls within this district, right? I'm letting them know, hey, what is the average rent here in the area, right? So that in the future, whether or not this is going to be a good investment property for you. People go and purchase property and they say that, it's their forever home, right? The statistical number across America, you're talking about 7 to 8 years, meaning that most people, can expect to move within 7 to 8 years, even when they buy their forever home. So what I would want for my client is for them to be educated so that they have the options to know whether or not it's a place for them to buy, or in those 7 years whenever they come up, or maybe it's 3 years, they have options. You can either rent it out and keep it as an investment property, you sell, but those are factors that we're going to want to consider. What's the appreciation rate for this specific property in this area? And then whatever price we're offering for the property, right, the lender is going to want some reassurance that the property is worth what it is that we're buying it for, right? So now we have the appraisal for us to factor in. I'm the guy that's going to be running a comparable market analysis to let my client know what to expect. Like, look, man, this price, this house is, at market value, or it's below, or it's above, or you know what I mean? And I'm going to coach them through and guide them through and everything else. All the signatures that are going to be required on the, hundreds of papers that they're going to sign, that they probably aren't very familiar with because they're not attorneys and they might have never gone through this process before. I'm the one that's going to break that down for them and let them know what it is that they can expect, right? So all of this, there is a significant amount of services that are provided, right? But it's not done for free, right? Because at the end of the day, like, my responsibility is to provide for my family, and the way that I do it is through something that I love, which is real estate, right? So because I have spent years on developing and sharpening my skill for me to be a subject matter expert in the field, right? That's what I have to offer, right? So Ian does the same exact thing that I do. So now, because of that, if Ian is a good agent, which I know he is, he'll let the sellers know the benefits that are there for the sellers to offer a compensation to the buyer's agent, right?
Okay, there we go. Hold on. Let me
Because
talk about that real quick because I want to just connect the
yeah, yeah,
dots of
yeah.
where you're going because I want to lift you up here because what you're talking about is definitely correct. Because Bruno is somebody who operates his business on a productive timeline. A productive timeline requires logistical investment. Right? It's expensive. And if the best way to cut that back is to be really good at what you do. And then, so if he can come to the table, and I can see from working with him that this is a professional who is familiar with this process, and then I can get away from 98% of the problems that always pop up. People not handling things correctly, people having misinformed buyers, where the seller loses the biggest cost of this whole thing, which can be time. And this is why I'm trying to connect the dots with this thing real quick with you, Bruno, is that by working with a successful and professional and accomplished agent who doesn't just appear, they have to spend some time existing in this world, and operating wherever they do, where they have to learn these skills to swim in the pool. And by working with somebody who is talented and ready to go and competent about what it takes to purchase and close and a house for a buyer, then you get the speed that the seller ultimately gets the value of having speed of execution of the sale, right? So I want to talk about that a little bit, so some of the problems that get in there, because that's the biggest value that you're going to have to sell to your buyers and your sellers now, is the speed of execution that you're capable of providing for them, because that's all they want. The listing agent or the listings, they want their house, they want a pile of cash, and the buyers want a place to hang their hat, right? Then they want it as fast as
Mhm.
possible for the best price. So how do you think that what do you think the new costs are, the new standard costs are going to be?
Man, so I don't think that there's going to be a standard, you know what I mean? And I think now more than ever, we're going to kind of be forced into understanding and realizing that, right? I mean, like, I remember when I first got started in real estate, I thought that the standard, right, for commission, whenever you're helping somebody purchase a house was 2.5%, right?
Hmm.
And the longer I've done this, the more I've come to realize that there is no actual standard. You know what I mean? Like I've made, like I mentioned earlier, I've made 1% on a purchase. I've made 2.5. I've made 3. I've even made 4% before on helping somebody purchase. Right. So I'm not sure that there's going to be a standard, man. I think that it'll just be on um, the different agents really understanding and knowing their worth. Right. Because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, if I came to you today for you to help me buy a uh, commercial piece of property, right, of real estate, commercial real estate, I'm buying a multi-unit, um, right? I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you have a significant amount of training, right, that you're going to be conducting for me. Because I know that you're going to go and you're going to break down the 9 different steps when it comes to underwriting a property. That is not the standard service that real estate agents will typically provide, right? And I can say that with certainty. So now I would ask you this, Ian, like, do you feel, right, that because you're going to be doing all this extra stuff, right, that your compensation should be the same as the agent who is only opening doors? So if you got the guy or gal that all they do is just turn the key, I open the door, they look, they do whatever, right? They like it, don't like it, or whatever, right? Compared to the services that you would provide, to where you're opening the doors just like they are. You're doing all the driving and the showing just like how they are, right? But then you're going the extra mile, right? After we go and we see the property, before we sit down and submit an offer, you're going to go and you're going to walk me through all the 9 steps on how to underwrite a deal to let me know whether or not this makes sense, right? And then maybe I won't get it right away, right? Maybe you're going to go and you're going to have me come to the office, and then you're going to do some one-on-one training with me to really understand, so you can help shape how it is that I purchase property, shape my perspective on how I go about acquiring real estate, because you do it the same way that I do it, right? You want to make me an investor, not just a homeowner, right? So, do you feel as if that that your proposition or your worth, right, for the services that you offer, are the same as the agent who is just opening doors to let me see property?
Yeah, and that's okay. Awesome. You actually teed me up for a really good thing that I've been talking about. So awesome. Thanks. This is something I've been trying to put a number to, because the value that you give your client isn't always in just the property that they purchase. Okay. So
Boom.
by working with an agent, yes, they execute the task, which is to get me a set of keys and a place to put my stuff. Okay. However, the amount of, I mean, this is relative to the buyer too. If the buyer isn't interested in it, they just want a house, then there is a different level of nurturing with that. But for the most people, they know that real estate is an investment, and if how interested they are in real estate is where you can provide, I would say, long term value that is outside of the costs of the purchase. Right. So say working with me, yeah, we did it. Thanks. My costs are 10 grand. We get it done. I get my 10 grand. But if I taught you $100,000 worth of knowledge, like who wouldn't take that deal, right? If I said, "Hey, here you go. Here's $1 billion. Just give me 10, or just give me 100,000. You know what I mean? Or here's $10. Give me one." That's all that matters. Like, do you want the nine? So that's kind of where I
Exactly.
go because there's so much value that could be utilized because it's the first step into some sort of like business too. So this is why it's such a sensitive subject too. Because and I was talking about this earlier with somebody who brought this topic up, is that you have this overlap of territory that's tricky because you have residential and then you have commercial use, and not in terms of zoning, but you have residential and commercial use of real estate, right? So what I want to say is, like, will it make you money, and is it just something that you consume, like it's something you just buy and use? So since it floats that timeline there where you something you can use and it makes you money, it's really really regulated because so many people have access to it. So where I'm going with this is, what I'm saying is that it's kind of hard to um, be in a situation with something that's so regulated as real estate for residential purposes to make sure nobody's taken advantage of, and at the same time cultivate a an investor, because they could
Mhm.
take the right turn and start purchasing more real estate as an investment portfolio, or they can be just the consumer. So you have to try to navigate that and try to maximize. So if the person gets more value out of having that conversation about a projected investment portfolio, or if they get more value out of just, hey, this is how fast I can get this done. And that's
Yeah,
where I think
man. Absolutely.
two different variations of how you can provide value to your client and still earn a good wage. Because if
But now
someone's like,
let me ask you this though.
yeah, what you
So
got?
then now, how would I know what value you're providing me, right? Again, mind you, I am this is the first time that I'm purchasing an investment property, and this is actually maybe the first time that I'm purchasing anything at all, right? I was just on base, or I was, just renting, and now all of a sudden I go into purchasing some multi units, right? So then, like, how will I know that you are providing me value if I don't know any better?
Hmm. Um, how do you know that you're providing value? Do you understand the conversations we're having? Is what I would say. Because it's just like any other course. Like, are you doing something that is landing with the customer? And that comes to every different customer's outlook on it. So if you're trying to provide value, like, hey, this is my first commercial property. I'm trying to make money on this thing. What do I look for? And that's when you kind of break it down. And you start giving them more value, and then ultimately, if are they happy with the product? Too, because then that comes into also the normal aspects of any other business. It's just like, now you have a number associated with you. If I work with, like, Bruno, I set you, yeah, I work with you, I do a good job for you, you get exactly the level of service you're looking for. Like, I mean, whatever, Jedi tricks, right? You either get value or speed or both. And you're happy with me, and you paid the price, and you give me a referral, it's going to work the same way. Like, yeah, this person took care of me and solved the issue. You know? this person took care of me and solved the issue. This person took, I mean, that's where you are going to almost become like a celebrity agent, even, where like I'm after a specific, like that could be a specific market if you want to hyper focus, because the specialization actually, if any of you out there, like it's, don't sleep on it. Everyone usually
Mhm.
gets into real estate for the sexy residential real estate. You know what I mean? Like the BMW and the Blazer. No offense. I'm not trying to pick on you, Bruno. No, I love you, bro. Uh, I'm guilty too, except I got different tires. Um, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot of different real estate out there, and there's a lot of different ways of getting into it. So this might be an opportunity too to leverage the opportunity of other people in your area that are kind of working with this type of timeline. I forget, like in commercial real estate, Bruno, do commercial real estate agents have to negotiate their commissions at the table, or is it always off the seller? Does anybody know?
Same thing. It's the same thing off the seller, how it
Mhm.
is with residential, at least how as it stands now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's gonna be great. I'm not really worried about it. It's gonna be one of those things where it's just an adjustment period for sure. It
Yeah,
will be
man.
something to figure out though, because it's
But
gonna
this is
come
what
out.
I'm
It
thinking.
still has to come out of the pot. That's all. It's not really gonna change anything. I think it's just gonna change the hoops we have to jump through.
Yeah, so I think what's going to happen is it's just going to require some additional conversations, right? So now it's going to be one of the things where for those agents that are out there that you really truly don't provide additional value besides opening a door for somebody. Now I feel as if you may have a tougher time in trying to sell your services because it's essentially what you're doing, right? So then now it's going to force a lot of people. One, the process of elimination is going to start. People will one start to weed themselves out, right? I promise you that there is a significant amount of people that have been considering or thinking about getting into real estate as real estate professionals, and the moment that they read the headline when they got on CNN.com or MSNBC, right, or they got the Google alert, right, about the Google News, I promise you that there is a significant amount of people that are like, you know what, real estate isn't for me, you know, uh,
Yeah, because people
and they
think it's
have,
just get your license and get a paycheck. It's
yeah,
like driving a
absolutely,
car.
but
Like
that's
I
the
think it's like
thing.
getting your license.
They have automatically started to weed themselves out, right? Because it requires a little bit more than what they were anticipating or hoping for. Why? Because when you hop on Selling Sunset, whenever you're watching Netflix, they don't cover all the additional behind the scenes things that go on for a real estate professional at all. If you know what I mean, like it's the thing that you see, right? Kind of like like watching a professional athlete out there go and get it on and like you know what I
Yeah, they
mean,
make it look
score the
easy.
points and take the shots. They don't see like the time spent in the gym, the number of practices, the number of injuries that they sustain throughout. You know what I mean, like prepping them for D-Day, which is the actual game, right? So so I think, man, so really like the change that we can expect to see is people that are now going to be required to just kind of show your value to your folks, because now you have to let them know, right, that your services come at a cost. So at the end of the day, people aren't normally going to go and pay for something that they are not getting something in return for, right? And now no longer can we use, which I mean, we weren't supposed to be using it anyways, but I know a lot of people still, we're still clinging on to, the selling point being like, oh yeah, look, work with me as your agent to buy because it's free for you, right? And that was a thing that we were running into issues. And I feel like,
I use that line. I'm not gonna admit I used it.
but you see, but that's the thing, man. So
Yeah.
that line contributes to the problem that led to where we are now.
I don't think so, because what it is, it gets me the agent incentivized to get out there and find people. Because think about it, those people that I were on the fringe and they weren't able to pay that additional 2.5% of the deal. Because a $500,000 house, that's what 20 grand. No, hold on, let's do the math here. Because I mean, think about this: 500,000 times 2.5%. is $12,500 that has to basically come out of a hat now. And there's been so many of my clients that I have worked with, because most of my clientele are first-time home buyers, and at the same time, usually I have to babysit them a little while to get them on track because they're smart. They just don't have a financial education. So by doing that and finding those places, I've put them on track. Like, I have been able to get the family from having, you know what I mean, like $10,000 into the bank to having $300,000 in the bank. So now
Right.
that person that had that chance to get that threshold, because me, the agent, me, the person who's committed to helping out and finding a solution to somebody and creating that opportunity in the market to connect buyer and seller, everybody won. Seller got rid of that house. Buyer got a house that had a great start. They built a foundation, and now they have, you know what I mean, a high equity position in the house. Or, you know, I think they even, like, when we sold it, they had like, yeah, almost 300,000. And because they had a lower baseline, they were able to save more too. So their whole family was able to have a success because they had the opportunity to get that start. And if I'm not searching for those people, then they miss out. So
Absolutely.
it's interesting to see where the damages are going to come into play, and if they're severe enough to kind of warrant the big sorry, if they're big enough to kind of warrant, well, I guess it doesn't matter if it warrants it anymore. It's done. But if it's big enough to kind of have an effect on those people that need the extra help.
No, man, but I think so the thing that I was getting at though, right, when I made mention of, so I think that sometimes the statements that are made, right, and the things that are said is what contributed to us being at the point that we are now, right? I think that the statements that a lot of agents were clinging onto and telling buyers that it was free for them to work with an agent, right? I think that is what kind of led to a little bit of the lack of transparency, right? Because that isn't necessarily transparent because it's not free, right? It may not come at a cost to them, but it's not free because somebody is still getting compensated for it, right? Free is the thing that, something gets done or services get rendered and there's no compensation involved. So I feel as if, a lot of times people weren't conveying that message or relaying that message back to their clients to get them to a point for them to understand that it's not free, right? It just comes at a cost, but that cost isn't yours, right, to pay. It's for somebody else, but it still comes with compensation. And I think that is what kind of led to the miscommunication and led to some people feeling as if they're being duped here and there. Because let's face it, man, right? Whether it's our industry or any industry, you always have of the rotten apples that don't necessarily conduct themselves in business the way that you would or the way that you should be conducting yourself, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to focus on those because those are the terror stories that happen. But I mean, it all comes down to finding the right professional too. Because how do I want to put
But
this?
it's
We
not
have
the
we have to
focus, though.
figure out.
Check it out, though.
I'm sorry.
It's the actions, right? It's not necessarily the focus. It's the fact that the actions of those that don't conduct themselves in the way that they should be conducting themselves, right, is what led
Yep.
to a knee-jerk reaction and led to all this other stuff that goes on, right? And the huge industry adjustment because of the rotten apples. If
Mhm.
everybody was doing things the way that we know that should be getting done, right, then nothing would have ever been questioned, right? There wouldn't have ever been any sort of like, let's pause and think about this because the max transparency would have been there. So it is the actions of the rotten apples that leads to, the changes and all the other additional things that kind of take place with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes down to this, okay, so this is a business strategy I heard a little while ago, and it was wild. But the guy was an innovator. He said he's been doing weird stuff for a minute. So one of the things he would do, And I don't know if this is legal, y'all. So this is not advice. Do not take it. We're just, smoking and joking. All right, without smoke or jokes. All right. So what I'm saying here is that this person, what he would do is so Bruno, you're my buyer. All right, tra la 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 la. We show houses. I get you a house. But part of that agreement to be a purchase or a buyer representation purchase, I wrap up into that a listing agreement. So I will. So if, for instance, I don't get paid on your purchase, but you and me are having a 10-year plan, where when you list your house, you're going to list it with me, and I'm going to get this amount. So where do you fall on that as far as a business? What's your opinion of that as a business strategy? Because I thought about it and it sounded like it would work, but it would take hell. I mean, that's a big commitment to your business. You need income now. But if you if you plant those roots, do you think that's an efficient way of not getting burned? What's your opinion on it?
And personally, man, I think that while it's not a bad idea, I think that it's unsustainable, right? I think that if you were to go and try to conduct business today about the payout that you're going to have and potentially, right? So we said, statistically speaking, it's between 7 to 8 years, right? So if you're doing that with the sake of counting on the money that you're going to be earning in almost a decade from now, right? I don't think that's ultimately going to be sustainable, right? Because real estate professionals have mortgages, they have expenses, they have people that they're ultimately responsible for, and everything else. So I think that the easiest would be what I mentioned earlier, is having that conversation up front. Hey man, check this out. These are the services that I have to offer. This is how I can help you, right? And I can give you stats. I can talk to you about, the stats. So everything that we talk about in here, man, whenever we have the realtor and lender townhouse rooms, that we start talking about how it is that you can generate business, what it is that sets you apart from other people, et cetera, et cetera. Now more than ever, those things are going to be incredibly important, right? Like now more than ever, it's where those stats and those and all that information that you convey, man, like that will be the difference between somebody saying, you know what, hey Ian, man, I know that you charge 2.5% to have you represent me in my purchase. But you know what? I like what it is that you're saying. What you're saying makes sense. And by the way, now people are definitely going to be checking the Google reviews. People are definitely going to be looking people up on social media, because if you're going to turn around and you're going to tell me that you're going to do all these things, right? And you're going to, you have this whole social media marketing strategy for my property. Well, the first thing I'm going to do, man, I'm going to check your social media and see like what's the what kind of content or what kind of videos
Yeah, that's a good
and
point.
information that you're putting out there.
Yeah, your storefront.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because now if you're telling me that I have to pay, I'm going to make sure that I'm paying for something that is actually worth what it is that I'm paying. Before, if you told me that it's free, then whatever, man. You know what? I just need this agent to help, open this door for me. Like whatever else happens, whatever. I don't really care. Like, they want this much for the house. I'm willing to pay for it. Just have this guy come and show me this house and open it up, and everything else is there. But now the narrative changes once you're telling me that I am on the hook for paying the 2.5% commission that's going to your pocket.
Absolutely, man. It's all in the hustle. Like, because I know for a fact I have definitely saved more than $12,000 in a deal for my buyer.
Easily.
Easily. That's what I mean. And the same deal with listing people. People like this is what this is. This is the same nonsense as like what for sale by owner. Everybody is so hyper focused on avoiding that bill to your expense, which is a tax write off, by the way. Like you can expense the commission against your profits of the sale. I'm not a tax professional, but you can do that, everybody. And so it's like trying to sell your house yourself too. If it's on the other end, without representation, you leave yourself open to risk, because a person can only do so much for you. Because if you work directly with the selling agent, like that person is just trying to close the deal and get it done. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of like looking out for that person, right? They're trying to make their customer who came to them first, the owner, they're trying to make that person happy. So the buyer agency is something that really negotiates a huge opportunity for the buyer, because even, and to bring it back what we were talking about earlier, like solar. How many times if you were listing a property for a seller and they had a $20,000 solar payment that was assumable, but they're like, I may pay it off, but you find out that your buyer can assume it. What do you think they're going to do? Oh yeah, here, just assume the loan, make this little payment, then here, seller, you get an extra 20 G's. Boom. Or on the listing side, hey, if you can pull that off and your seller gets the money, boom, you just got your paycheck too. You made it happen. It's all about the way it goes. Like, this is real estate. This is big boy games here. Like, this is why representation is important, because the numbers can go really quick. You can get in the wrong deal and it would just ruin you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Hey, check this out, brother. Look, let's do this real quick. Hey, guys. So everyone that's tapping into us over here on Clubhouse, man, what I want to do is, well, Perez, if you can hear me, man, can you mod me up? So then that way I can invite some of the folks that are down here on the stage and kind of bring, or that are down in the audience, we can bring them up to the stage, right? So I know that Ian and I have been kind of going back and forth and just having a dialogue here. But man, what we would love to be able to do, man, is have you guys tap in, ask some questions, right? Offer your perspectives. Because I'm telling you, at the end of the day, man, like everything that we're talking to you guys about, it's really just our own personal perspective, right? And it's, some of our professional opinions on the matter, right? But again, opinions are opinions. So we would love to hear some of your opinions. For those of you guys that are down at the audience, go ahead and raise your hand and come on up to the stage, and then we can take some questions to hear what it is that you guys have to say and kind of address that, so we can keep the conversation going, man. Because I'm telling you, there is nothing more valuable than folks that are in the industry and being able to have the conversation with. So go ahead and raise your hands, guys, and then you'll be able to come up. Perez, if you're able to make me a moderator, I'll be able to send the invites and accept some people to come up here.
You're already a
Ian,
moderator.
inside of the chat, right, we got some comments from Jeff, and I want to just kind of read this out. So Jeff said, in my opinion, the entire system is flawed. Without a buyer, no one gets paid. Whoever actually sells a house should get the cheddar. Many agents just lock up listings and still get 3% from others doing the work and selling the property. What do you think about that, Ian?
I'm sorry, man. I was in the chat. Can you tell me again? I was looking at something else.
So Jeff said that he thinks that the entire system is flawed, and that without a buyer, no one gets paid, right? So he thinks that whoever sells the house should get the money. Okay, that many agents lock up listings and still get 3% from others doing the work and selling the property.
See, I got no problem. I got no problem with somebody making money on it.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Who's that? Oh, that's Tony. I heard that. No, I got no problem with somebody making the money, because that's the value that an agent provides. It's tricky territory. It's expensive if you screw it up, and if you can convert that asset to cash on a quick time scale, that's a valuable transaction. Like, somebody wants like an assured result as quickly as possible, and that's why they write the check. So I don't think there's anything wrong with paying the price to get it done at all.
No, man,
so I
absolutely,
don't
man.
think there's anything wrong with any of that.
Okay, hey Sheldon, brother. Hey, welcome to the stage, man. It's good to see you, man. My brother from the depot, man. Sheldon and I used to be drill instructors together down there, getting it in. What's up, brother?
Hey, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good. You guys are doing selling jewels, man. Telling everybody what they need to hear. I hope they taking notes.
Hey, that's what's up, man. Hey, brother, where are you located right now, man?
Right now, I'm in Colorado Springs, back and forth from San Diego to Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay. How much longer you got in service?
So I have 31st. I'll be fully off the roster for the Marine Corps, and I will be here for probably 2 more years.
Oh, snap. And what's next, man?
So right now I'm doing some defense contracting work out here, and dib-dab in the real estate on the side. So that's what we're doing.
Good. Oh, man, we'd love to hear it, brother. Man, I'm telling you, hey, if ever you consider getting into the industry, man, and becoming somebody licensed, brother, we would absolutely love to have you a part of the team, man. So that's one of the things, guys, that I wanted to kind of touch on right, that I wanted to offer to my brother Sheldon and really anybody else that's tapping in. We got a whole bunch of folks that are down here in the audience listening in. We got a few folks on stage. Shout out to everybody that's up here on the stage, right? And then we got about 41 people that are tapping in on the live. So, guys, I want to tell you. So, one of the things that we have been putting together, right, is this program that allows people to transition into the real estate industry and then being able to become professionals, right? And then understand how it is that you can become a professional, how you can get into the sales side of things, right? Whether it's you helping people buy, helping people sell, right? Or just helping other folks become investors and kind of breaking the stuff down and showing them how it is that they should be underwriting the properties, understanding the deals, right? So anybody who's looking at getting into the industry, please, 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 I'll tell you guys, don't let some of these media headlines be the things that discourage you and push you out of pursuing the thing that you've been wanting to do. Okay, what I can promise you is, if you guys come over here with us, man, you will not lose, and we will show you guys how it is that you can still provide the maximum amount of value and service to the folks that you represent. Right, it's been the foundation of what we do. It's been ultimately the thing that has kept us afloat. So when a lot of real estate professionals were having a hard time last year, right, interest rates shot through the roof, and people who got started in real estate when COVID was going on, so we had low interest rates. Everybody and their moms were out here, looking to buy properties. So people got into real estate as professionals and they felt like, "Ooh, this is easy. I don't have to do much." So they were out here just, thinking that like being an agent was the easiest thing in the world. And then last year and then last year when the rates shot through the roof, right? Then a lot of agents started struggling, right? And for us, man, I'm telling you, like last year was one of the best years that we've had,
Yeah, I started
right? And it's
struggling,
because
man.
of what's that?
I started struggling too, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, man. But I'm telling you, but it's the fact of of us being able to continue to provide value, putting people over the money every single time. Like that is what ultimately makes the difference. That is ultimately going to be what makes the difference, right? Is are you able to put people over the money, right? And if you're able to do that, then you know what, you won't need to worry about struggling because the business will come. Business will come to the people who do business the right way.
Absolutely. Real estate is the ultimate equalizer. It's incredible. Like it's amazing how like things that shouldn't happen fall apart for a reason. I'm excited to learn something new. Um, in the short term, how long do you think it's going to, have you heard anything? How long do you think it's going to take before that's like just taken off the table completely? Or is it all new contracts from this point on will have a different
No, so
verbiage?
July, baby. So July is when nationwide is when it's going to take effect in accordance with the settlement agreement, right? It's still proposed. It still needs to be signed off, and there's still some more finalizing that needs to be done. But the messages that were put out, it's going to be July, right? So again, so everyone that's tapping in, man. So what we want to talk about and let you guys know, right, is kind of the update on what it is that came out, right? So the National Association of Realtors have come to a settlement, right, for a lawsuit that came down saying that essentially the summary of it, people were saying that uh, the seller shouldn't be paying for the buyers and the seller's agent at the same time. So they're after what it was called a decoupling of commissions, right? So traditionally we would go and maybe I'll charge 5% to the person that I'm selling the property for, and then I would split that with the other agent. So I keep 2.5, and then the other agent keeps 2.5. Now fast forward, so in a settlement, the National Association of Realtors, right, are now prohibiting the offer of compensation to the buyer's agent in the MLS. Now, there is nothing that stops the seller from still being able to pay for those fees and for the commission and everything else, but it can't be advertised in the MLS. So essentially, what does this mean? It just means that now the buyer's agent, right, will now have to communicate with the listing agent, which is the person that represents the seller, right? And then they're going to have that dialogue and the conversation about whether or not that seller is willing to pay for the fees for the buyer's broker, right? So that's essentially, the hot topic of discussion now, right? And that's one of the things. So for those of you guys that aren't really familiar with what it is that we're talking about or what's going on, and or maybe you've only seen the headlines and you don't understand, right? Like, so that there are some changes. It's not as grand as the media portrays it to be. As we know,
Yeah.
this it's the sake of the media, right? Like, like it wasn't until Trump, kind of came out and started really highlighting, hashtag fake news, right? Because for a long period of time, we just took, hey, if it's in a headline, it must be true, right? And now we know that that's not always necessarily the case. So it's a lot of clickbait going on, but you guys hearing it first from us, and have a better idea and understanding of what that really kind of looks like.
So let me say a couple of things if I can. Um, Here's a couple of things that I would say to that. Can we put a fire emoji in the chat for Ian and Bruno rocking out today and talking to you guys about this? Because, you know, as you can see, these are two top producers in our office. They are real estate investors as well. And I would tell you the problem that I see with this whole thing is that, you know, I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys. This is agents' fault. And this is a National Association of Realtors' fault for not mandating that and or communicating or not being able to communicate how much freaking work that a real estate professional has to do in order for us to negotiate your property. Let's just run down some of the stuff that we have to do. We got to send you listings. We got to make sure that you're pre-qualified. We got to drive around God's creation to show properties. We got to look for stuff that's wrong with the properties. We got to schedule the home inspection. We got to make sure all of the administrative stuff is done. We have to make sure that the pictures are done, that the way your house presents. We have to post your property on social media to make sure you got adequate marketing. We have to do a market analysis to see if the property is worth the buyers and submit a reasonable offer for the property. We got to negotiate with the listing agent because they're usually in the way. We got to make sure that the listing agent discloses everything. It's a lot of stuff that the agents have to do. And oh, by the way, we don't get paid for any of it until we actually get one in the contract. And oh, by the way, we also have to put miles and miles on our cars to show you all of these properties. Okay. And then we got to fight for the veterans because nobody likes to and argue with the real estate professionals because they don't know VA loans. So this is all of the stuff that we have to do. And the problem that I see is that there was no documentation basically stating, like what it is that we have to do. The reason why people won't pay is because of the absence of your value. And the issue is that a lot of agents were out here saying that, you know, that 6% was mandated for commissions when it's not. It's always been, nothing has changed. So basically with this lawsuit, let me tell you what came out of this lawsuit. So NAR hasn't done anything. They proposed a settlement for $418,000. That is not final. This lawsuit was in treble, meaning that it was over. It was $1 billion lawsuit times 3, which is what treble means. And they're proposing to pay $418 million in damages, which majority of it is going to go to these greedy lawyers because they don't understand what we have to do. And then from there, they're just saying the only change that they're making is that now they cannot put the real estate buyer's agents commission in the MLS. That's it. That's the only main change that they've done on top of having to sign a buyer's representation form. That's the only 2 changes that now. So, and I'm going to tell you, if you're not offering, I'm going to be one to go on the record. Y'all can write this down. If an agent is doing all of that work before, and this is the challenge, why would you not want to compensate the real estate professional that's doing all of that, that's bringing a willing and able buyer to your property? So I wanted to just land with that because when NAR, and guys, Ian and Bruno, I went on a call with the attorneys from National Association of Realtors, and that's what they said. It's going to be mandatory for us to do buyers agency representation forms, and that's going to come from top down, and that's going to be a national thing. And that the seller still can pay compensation to the buyer's agent. They just can't list it in the MLS. What goofiness does that? What does that sound like to y'all? Like, bro, like, so basically the listing agent's commission is going to go in there, and then you're going to have to find out how that's going to be. But see, let me tell you who it hurts the most: the VA buyers and the FHA buyers that don't have any money to compensate, because
Yeah.
you cannot, a real estate professional, a VA buyer cannot compensate a buyer's agent through the VA loan. So this is the crazy stuff that we're going to have to deal with. And I think, Ian, Bruno, we need to do a case study. And I think that we need to go, I think that we need to write a certified letter to the VA president to try to figure out how they're going to correct this situation. And I personally feel like it's called Do Not Disturb, Jack. All right, so I think that I personally feel like they need to write we need to write a letter saying, hey, buyers agents for veterans needs to be able to be part of the VA loan, just like the VA the VA funding fee. They need to be able to finance that, because these veterans are serving our country, and they don't have 2% of the purchase price or 3% or whatever that person is. They need to put like no more than X, and they need to be able to finance it. What do you guys think about that? How are veterans? What are your what are your suggestions on how do you think that we should be able to veterans should be able to compensate the buyer's agents?
I think it's going to come down
Man, I
to
think
negotiation in the deal with the seller, because ultimately there is always an incentive to sell the house, right? So if this is a buyer that works out for this environment, then you can negotiate it from the seller. I think it'll just be another aspect of closing fees that you have to get involved into the negotiation if that person's on the verge. Because we were talking about this earlier too. Those verge clientele are the most at risk in this process right now. Because a bunch of money just got wiped off the table for people to represent them and give them the heads up that they need. What do you think, Bruno?
Man, so I think that Tony, what I think we can expect is going to be that I have very little doubt, man, that before this thing rolls into action in July, that this will not be addressed, or some modifications are going to be made to the VA guidelines, right? Because I think that or I mean, not think, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? Because I heard it yesterday. So I was in a room yesterday where one of the guys from EXP, he's a personal friend with the director of VA, and I know, like, he messaged him about this stuff. I know yesterday when I sat through another meeting where it was a legal counsel for the National Association of Realtor that was talking about, kind of giving an update from the legal terms, and kind of taking it to where people aren't just relying on the media, but it's the factual horse's mouth type stuff. Across the board, everyone has been expressing the concerns specifically for the veteran buyer, right? Because the way it stands right now, they're not able to have this fee rolled into it. So a lot of people have kind of come out the woodworks and said, hey, you know what? In the interim, while we figure things out, the verbiage that we can use is just have the seller provide the concessions to the buyer, so that for the to pay for the buyer's real estate fees. But the issue that we're having now, and so for everyone that's tapping in, 44 people that are on the live, and all the folks that are here on Clubhouse, right? To know and understand is the way that the VA guideline states right now, a veteran cannot be charged real estate fees, like real estate specific fees, meaning that as an agent, I can't charge my buyer, right? No administration fee. I can't charge specifically a commission fee, and all these other things, right? So it's things that are in place to protect our veterans. But the way that it stands right now, so it's the protections that were put in place before this monumental change that is kind of coming about, right? But it's kind of come up where a lot of people are concerned about it, and I have no doubts that people aren't blowing up the VA to say, whoa, 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 you guys are going to have to do something, because as Tony mentioned, right, there is no way, right? Because think about this, guys. If this is a benefit for veterans to where they can go and purchase property zero money down, how is it that it's fair for them to now, it's zero money down as far as for a down payment? There are fees that are associated with the transaction. So, we already talked about the closing cost fee, right? That can range anywhere from 2.5% to 3%. But now, what if you have an additional 2 to 3% that gets slapped on top of that for real estate commissions, right? Now, the buyer that might have already been at a disadvantage because they didn't have as much cash in the bank, right? But luckily they have the opportunity to tap into something that doesn't require them to have a down payment. What about now, where now they have additional fees that they're responsible for? So I think that before July, Tony, I would anticipate that there would be some changes being made for the VA guidelines. What do you think?
Do you think that that will be something that'll be allowed to be written into a VA offer?
I think so, man. I think eventually once they adjust the guidelines, absolutely. And then one of the things yesterday too, man, that I heard that I'm like, holy crap, like I don't even know why we're even kind of spinning our wheels, right? And I heard somebody say, right, one of the executives at EXP say, hey, look, you know what, like I would use specific verbiage today, right now, and I would challenge any underwriter, right, where they can't say anything about it really, right? Where if you were to have the wording where you say seller to pay whatever brokerage X amount, right? At which point would that be unacceptable, right? I'm with EXP. Let's say you're with Keller Williams, Ian, right? And then your buyer, John Smith, right, is paying your commission, obviously, because you have a listing agreement and stuff like that. And then you and I go and we talk about it, right? We come to terms where 2%, right? John Smith is going to pay 2% for the commission for the buyer's agent, which is me, right? So what's to stop us from being able to put something in the contract, right, that says, seller to pay 2% of purchase price to EXP Realty? It's not a buyer fee.
No, yeah, you just write the listing contract that the seller is still to pay a buyer's agent fee.
It's honestly all about the verbiage. It should be something coming soon.
So this is something that happened in New York, right? Because I remember it was Anna was talking about this the other day, where she was saying that this is something that was implemented in New York at the beginning of the year. Is anybody on the room from New York State that's doing real estate out there? So we're on Twitter. We're across a bunch of different platforms here. Is anybody here that could chime in and give us that's from New York and does business in New York State? Because they're the test kitchen right now. They're the ones who are already going through it in real time. So I'm trying to figure out. I wish that we were. We should have got her online for this. They've got a good opinion. Has anybody else heard her talk about it?
I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it's. I'm not worried about it because the education value of working with somebody who's competent. There's too much value for the buyer who is a beginner at it. There'll be plenty of places to earn money. There'll be plenty of value to be added to the whole equation because the value of having representation it is something that's very obvious in this whole situation. Like, are you going to go to a heart surgery with the bartender? So like you have to work with somebody who knows the pitfalls and risks in the situation, and that person you have to pay for anything. It's the way it goes. If you want a predictable result, it's something that's assured of risk, then you have to write the check. It's just we got to figure out where it's going to come from.
A lot of people don't know, man. Like a lot of people don't know what it is that certain agents do, right? Like a lot of people don't know what it is, like what value some of these folks have to offer. Because let's be honest, man. Like we meet agents all the time that I'm like, oh my god, how are you a licensed agent? You don't know anything, right? So it's one of those where if you don't know something, then I know for damn sure your clients don't know shit because you're not able to educate them and kind of walk them through the process and like let them know how it is in their best interest to go with you and what it is that you can do for them, right? I see it all the time, man. Like me as a listing agent, do you know how often it is that I get offers where, or whether it's offers or conversations to where the agents are asking for concessions from my sellers? Very, very, very little. Like it's not a common practice, right? For me to see that come through. And it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't submitted not one contract, right, in the past year, maybe two, that I haven't asked for some sort or some level of concessions from the seller for my buyer.
Absolutely. Same thing here. Like I can't, if you wanted like, I mean, and how often do you get it too? That's the other piece of it. The offer with it is one thing, but how often do we negotiate credits for our buyers on almost every deal?
Man, I
Like I
feel like
don't think I get one into escrow
I'm
that
on
doesn't.
now, man, over a year and a half that I have seller concessions for every single deal
Every
for
single
the
deal.
past year and a half, like steadily.
Absolutely. So think about all that value that stacks up there because easily it's usually about 10K anyway.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Anytime.
man,
And
hey,
you
let's
understand.
see some folks, man, that are in here. Jacob, brother, man, hey, like, what do you think about that, Jacob?
Well, so this has been a great conversation. I'm not in real estate personally, but at 50 years old, I live here in California. I'm interested in finance, and I work in debt elimination and interest cancellation. So actually, I'm thinking this is my time. I really want to get into real estate now as a professional because so much of this financial literacy and financial education is lacking in our country, and that's been going on for decades. But Bruno, what you're saying is that that's a important point. It's like if you don't even know if you're coming again as a first time home buyer, you don't even know the rules of the game. You don't know you meet a real estate agent, you're just reading the book by the cover. Like you said, he's got the BMW and the blazer and he's got his business card, and you got a reference maybe from a friend, but you don't know all of this background unless you dig in and do some research. So it's like, Ian said, you're going to go to a professional when it comes to medicine or anything. So it's so important to find somebody who is a real professional with real experience to represent you. Absolutely.
Yeah, and how do you think we're going to be able to like differentiate ourselves in the market? So, Jake, since we still got you on the mic real fast, you got another time for one more question?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So check this out. So you, as somebody who is not in real estate but values and understands debt and like has conversations with people about it, what do you think that you're going to look for as a as a real estate consumer? And I don't know if you buy real estate, but as a real estate consumer, as somebody who's just a part of the panel, so thank you. Like, what do you think it's going to take and to get you the representation you need, and are you as a buyer willing to pay that fee? What's your initial reaction to it as a buyer?
Um, I hear your question, but what was the last part about paying that fee?
Yeah. So, what is your reaction to purchasing real estate and looking at this new fee from a buyer's perspective?
You know, I look at it as the big picture, meaning like working like first of all, being in California, I might ping, Tony, you and Bruno on this stage and say, now that I've had a relationship with you guys on Clubhouse, I'm like, hey, I'm in the Bay Area. Do you know any realtors? Because I don't. And like that's again a level of reputation and a level of professionalism to say, now that I have a good agent working for me. He's working on my behalf and he's educating me along the way. So it's kind of like, don't sweat the small stuff. I'm willing to pay for the professional, right? I'm willing to like pay that little bit more for a product that's better quality. So the same for me comes to when it's buying, say, my first investment property or my first home. I'm not sweating the small stuff. I'm saying I will pay for that proper representation and know that this is a long-term game, and so that, you know, a few dollars here or there, like I'm willing to pay for the pro instead of save money on the amateur, if that answers the question.
Awesome. No, that's definitely it. And what do you think about the fees when it comes? What's your opinion about the fees? Like, if the fees never changed, do you think spending 2.5% on the purchase of a property is valued to you as the purchaser as a fee? You know what I mean? Like, if you had to go and spend the money for a contractor and you need a new bathroom and it costs you 25 grand, is that a fee that you still think is unpalatable to a buyer?
No, because again, I look at it as you know, like I think Bruno brought up earlier, it's like the IRS, that nobody gets away from the tax man. It's even though taxes in California are nearly 60%, and we know our system has corruption in it. We know every government in the world has corruption in it, but it's a price of doing business. You know, it's like we're here in California. It's like we do what we have to do. So that's kind of how I look at it. Is again, I'm gonna pay for I'm going to pay the best price I can get, and if I have to pay a little bit more to get great quality, what's another 2%? I look at it. I fold it into, this is the price of doing business. But if I'm doing business, I want to do the best business, and I want to do good business and get the best deal I can. So again, it comes down to, there's always fees in life. There's always some, so it's like, don't sweat the small stuff is how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, Jake. Okay, so you're nailing on it. I'm going to use this to land and wrap up the whole crew here because we gotta ride out. Because you will always conflict with pricing with your product in the absence of value. All right, that is exactly what Tony mentioned earlier, and it coincides with what Jacob was just talking about. As a buyer, if you have an overwhelming experience with the transaction and you see value in the purchasing that product, right? The whole reason why you buy a gallon of water is because you need it, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that if you can get to this point where you have value, you build value with your customers to the point where they're happy to write the check for your contract and your service, then that's something that you would always have to deal with no matter what. And that's something that we're going to go with and move forward because you have to serve your customer no matter the circumstances. So my name is Ian Jensen. I'm here with Bruno Nascimento over here on the live. Thank you all for you 46 people that have been here during this conversation. Plus, I think we got some on Clubhouse, been all over. Been about 100 people probably across all the platforms here. Bruno, do you have anything to say before I take us out?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, can you hear me okay,
Yeah, I got you.
Ian?
Yeah, I'm
You guys
still
are
here with you.
good.
Okay,
You guys are
sorry.
still good.
Yeah, man. So I think this is what I probably should have done this whole time. I should have turned the volume down on my computer, right? muted the computer and just talked through the clubhouse because it still echoes over there. So there's a slight lag on the video. But it probably would have been easier to just kind of go through. But hey, we're gonna figure this out eventually, man. But no, hey, so I definitely want to say thank you for everyone that's tapping in, man. We've got, and of course, the moment that we start to shut things down is when like more people start coming up, man. We got 49 people that are tuned into the live and have been actually seeing our faces and hearing our voices specifically about this topic, man. We were talking about, the news that everyone, you know what I mean, is kind of getting wrapped up around. We have a whole lot of fear mongering, right? That's going on, right? But hey, at the end of the day, as long as we understand what is actually happening, ways around it, how to, protect you as the consumer, how to protect you as a real estate professional, and how to find the solutions. So many times, guys, I tell you, so many people focus and worry about the problems. And it's like, if you were to take a fraction of the energy that you spend on,
dwelling on the problem towards actually looking for solutions or adapting and changing, right? This is no different. The things that have been going on now, or the things that have been going on, it's no different than the things that are going to be coming about, right? You have some, a few nuances here and there that we're going to have to kind of adapt to, and you know what I mean. Now, the lazy agents, your job has gotten harder, right? So if you were doing business not the right way, or if you were lazy about it the way that you were doing it before, right? Well, the system is gonna, is gonna get a little bit tougher, and you will naturally weed yourself out. Which, you know what? I tell you, man, I would be lying if I told you that, that I'm not okay with that, right? I feel like some people need to be getting out of this industry anyways, right? So that the folks like myself, Tony, Ian, right, and and everybody else that we rock with, man, that are doing it the right way, putting people over the money every single time, right? For us to really, really, really add value to people and kind of help them with this. I mean, shit, man, like think about this room, right? So for those of you guys that are just tapping in and aren't really familiar, those that are on the live, if you haven't been tapping into us on Clubhouse, right? This whole winter real estate movement came about from us wanting to help people. Right. And that was the root and the foundation of how this whole thing came about. It was us saying, you know what, man, like, man, what good is it for us to have all this information and not share it with the world, right? Tony went and said, man, you know what, like, he saw a problem, right, for veterans, and financial literacy being something that not too many veterans knew about, and said, you know what, man, like, I can complain and bitch about the problem, or I can try to do something about it. And then he stood up the Veteran Homeowners Club, which is a nonprofit, right? And from that, it led and kind of trickled on to us doing all these other things. But essentially, this right here, where you guys are hearing us from, the platform that you guys are watching us on, has all stemmed from, that premise of wanting to help and wanting to give back, right? So now it's not optional. You have to be able to provide the service, and you have to be able to articulate, right, what it is that you have to offer. Because if somebody is going to be compensating for it, then they damn sure want to make sure that they're getting what they're actually paying for. But I'm super excited, man, and I'm super happy to have everybody tapped in. We got 51 people on the live, a whole bunch of people that are down here in the audience, man. But we appreciate you guys for tapping in. And make sure you guys stay connected with us, man. On Wednesdays, we're back here in the morning at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard. And then Thursdays, again, we run this room. And then we're probably going to have a few more rooms that get sprinkled in here and there. I want you guys to be tapping into and being aware of the 10X military spouse movement that we got coming up, man. We had an amazing, amazing, amazing meeting yesterday with Elena Cardone, and I'm telling you, people are going to keep winning, man. If if you are giving back, right, then there is no way for you to be able to lose. Tony, are you with us, man?
Hey, let's you guys can keep on going. If there's any questions, you guys can answer them. You guys are still good to go.
Now we got to wrap this up. We're
Okay,
going to
let me
take
see
off.
something. We got a
Yes.
question in here.
Yes. Any questions in the chat?
Okay, yeah. So Luciana, she asked, did you guys already cover how the potential changes would affect veterans? We did, but really, what I mean, I think like the short answer to that question is, right now we don't, things are gonna have to change, right, as far as for the VA guidelines, so that veterans are impacted less, right? The way that it stands now, veterans are not able to be charged for real estate fees that would prohibit them from paying for the buyer's agent's representation, right? So these changes aren't really going to kick into effect until July, and I have no doubts that before then we're going to see some sort of of relief or changes or guidelines adapting so that the veterans aren't affected, right? Which at the end of the day, I think that the one thing that we are pretty good at is understanding the the value behind giving back to our veterans, right? Because across the board, everyone understands that there's been ultimate sacrifices being made by our veterans. So we do want to give back to them and kind of set them up for success. So in that part, I kind of do have some some hope in our government and the Department of Veteran Affairs to be able to come up with something that is going to, provide some sort of relief. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, guys. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. If not, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next 2 minutes. Tony, I'm not sure if you're with us, brother. If you are, please chime in, and then we would love to hear your parting remarks.
I got him in the building. Hold on.
What up? What up?
What
What
did he say?
up?
That you got him in the building?
I'm in the house, Jack.
Oh, what's up?
Oh man, y'all blowing up. I see y'all. Look, Twitter is blowing up. I see 50 people on Twitter Spaces. Man, you guys did a magnificent job. I just want to say, man, listen. Look, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, man. Look, our office is not worried, and let me tell you a couple of reasons why we're not worried. Number one of the main reasons that we're not worried about this stuff is because we've always provided value beyond reasonable doubt. I have good faith and confidence that all of the agents that are working with us, they understand how to negotiate like they're buying properties for themselves. And they do it. And let me tell y'all something. Okay. Out of, for the past, since 2006, I can count on one hand where we forced clients into a situation to where they had to buy the property from us. Okay. And I've had listings cancel and not get paid. We paid a lot of money for pictures and everything else and not get paid. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with listing and buyers. And I know beyond reasonable doubt that we fight for veterans and anyone, okay? Because we know what it's like to not have enough money to purchase property. And that's the reason why we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing over the fast thing. And I believe that's where a lot of people got in trouble at. So make sure you guys are following Ian Jensen and Bruno Nascimento. I could tell both of them don't have a iPhone stand because they're looking down right now on the camera. Okay. But guys, we're going to put a fire emoji in the chat if you guys enjoyed the show. Make sure you guys join the Facebook group, Win in Real Estate Facebook group, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, SITREP YouTube. Okay, where we help you win in real estate. Shout out to them because we're going to be doing another show. And we're going to be talking to you guys about a lot more things that we're going to be bringing to a Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn near you. A phenomenal room today. I listened to you guys, and you guys crushed it today. It was super dope.
We appreciate you, brother, man. Hey, isn't Renew hopping on today on the live?
Yeah, he's going to be hopping on the live. We're actually getting ready for that. I need to check and see where he's at. But yeah, we're later on today. I'm going to be interviewing a Navy veteran transitioning out of the military. Okay, and it's going to be awesome, guys. So we will be going live on the SITREP YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and like that, and then also make sure you follow me, Ian, and Bruno on X and on Instagram. And guys, we're gonna be coming live. We're gonna be coming live here in another 20 minutes. I'm in the office. I had to go to the franchise tax board and asked them why I have to pay $188,000. Okay,
Whoa.
but I showed a little bit of my thigh meat, so they told me I'm good. All right, guys. Phenomenal room again. Outstanding class. And then, guys, we're going to be coming back here live here shortly. Okay.
All right. Later, guys. Stay tuned.
All right, guys. See you soon.